Video, I'm always willing to share because that's the only way this message is ever going to get out.
Make sure you talk live. You're on live, so talk loud.
Okay, do I need the microphone?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Put some slop on it. Sorry, you don't have an idea. Hey, wipe it off, wipe it off.
So, okay, is this okay?
Yeah, that's good.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So, obstacles that can get in your way when you're trying to implement the ketogenic way of eating. Now, I want to start this. We're going to all do a mental experiment. And this is going to, if you do this properly, this should set your mind at ease. Okay, the next time that a cruise ship nutritionist tells you that keto will kill you, you're going to be like, okay, hon, thanks. Okay, the next time you see the next cardiologist that they've tried it out, that Big Pharma and Big Food have tried it out to try to scare you, you'll be like, okay, hon, thanks. That's nice. Okay, so here's our mental experiment. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to time travel. We're going to go back in time for 50,000 years, okay? Because human beings have been on this planet for a long damn time, right? A million years. We've been pretty much in the form we're in right now, but definitely 50,000, 100,000 years ago, we were the same exact DNA that we are now. There's been no meaningful evolution in 50,000 years. We were the same animal as you sitting there right now. Your great-great-grandfather times 500, he was just like you. He walked like you, he talked like you, scratched his butt like you. We were exactly the same species, right? So when people say that keto's a fad, or that keto's a new diet, or that it's some weird thing, oh, it's keto, I don't know, we don't know about that. When we're back in time 50,000 years, what did your granddad eat? Anything he was big enough to catch, right? And what was on the top of their list back then, and if any of you guys want any more information about this, Dr. Michael Eaves has a ton of videos about, we can actually do carbon and nitrogen dating on the bones of Neanderthals and ancient humans. And I don't mean millions and millions, I'm not talking about that kind of DNA. I'm talking about 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 years ago. We can know very precisely what they ate. Yeah, that's right. They ate the biggest, fattest animal that they could bring down as a tribe. That's what they ate, if they had their preference. Neanderthals were almost entirely carnivore. They would eat veg begrudgingly. If they were starving and couldn't get anything else, they would eat something green. But otherwise, they were predominantly carnivores, right? They ate fatty meat. And there's tons of archaeological evidence where we find broken femurs, where they've broken the femur to get to the fatty marrow, where they've broken into the brain case to get to the brain, which is pure fat and cholesterol. Your brain is pure fat and cholesterol. So what do you think you should feed your body if you want your brain to be healthy, right? And so we know that our ancestors 50,000 years ago ate as keto as they possibly could. Now our ancestors that live closer to the equator, right, where there's a longer growing season, they probably ate some fruit and more veg. Yeah, no doubt about that. But they still predominantly tried to go after the big animals that were full of fatty meat. That's basically how we evolved to be what we are, is by eating that fatty meat and eating a high-fat diet. And so what the fad is, what the weird diet is the diet that we've been told to eat for the last 50 years. That's the weird fad diet, okay? Because never in the history of humanity, even before recorded history, never have we eaten 50, 60, 70 grams of carbohydrates per meal, and then 10 to 15 grams per snack in between. Never have we ever have human beings eaten 6 times a day in the history of humanity, except for the last 50, 60 years. Because when you start eating a high carb diet, you got to eat often, or your blood sugar will drop on you, right? Remember the old days? It's like, ooh, it's been 2 hours, I need to eat something, right? That doesn't happen when you're eating the proper human diet, which is what keto is. And so the more I study this, the more I look at this, the more, if you guys have the right mindset, then all that other foolishness is just silly. It's like, you're not even making any sense. How are you telling me this is a fad diet? This is what we've eaten the entire time we've been on this planet as a species. The fad diet is the stupid crap you're trying to sell me at the grocery store. That's the fad, right? Okay, so let's talk about obstacles. The first obstacle is our mindset, because when you fix that, everything else just falls into place, because you become very eager, you become a student, you start learning, you start reading, you start watching YouTube videos, and you start to get it because you're open, you're receptive. But when you're like this, oh, I don't know, it's a fad, it's weird, it's spooky, I don't know. That's the main obstacle for you personally, okay? And so once you get it, oh, this is actually it. This is the human diet that we're supposed to eat. This is why it's why you hear those weird stories about, oh, this person's psoriasis got 95% better. How's that? How does a diet do that? And so what I want to talk about is Western versus Eastern thought, okay? Here in the West, where most of us grew up, if you had a problem, you had to add something, right? You got a broken window, you have to go out and buy a new window and hire a guy to put the window in. That's how you fix that problem, right? Our modern epidemics of diabetes, obesity, prediabetes, insulin resistance, they're not called, we don't fix that by adding things. And that's what everybody that Dr. Lemansky alluded to, coming to the ketogenic way, they're trying to sell this pill and this powder and this shake and this bar and these supplements. They're thinking the old way. Oh, we need to add something to fix this person. That's exactly backwards. That's backwards. That's not even, doesn't even make any sense once you get what we're talking about here. The way you go keto is to remove things. The slow poison of sugar, you remove that. You stop poisoning yourself. You don't add a new supplement. You stop the slow poison of sugar, right? You don't add a collagen shake. You remove grains from your diet, because human beings are not supposed to eat grains. Starting about 10,000 years ago, we started to eat grains in any kind of meaningful portion. It was still a very small percentage of the human diet. Even then, when we were actively cultivating, it was very trivial. You might have a little bit of bread with your fatty meat, okay? Only when there became a population explosion of humans and you had to feed all these people, what are you going to feed them? Cheapest thing you can get. What's that? Bread. Yeah, right? And so that bread's for poor people. That's literally how it's been the entire history of empires and kingdoms. Poor people ate bread. The rich people ate whatever they wanted, which was usually fatty meat, right? And the poor people got the bread. And so you don't fix the human condition that we're all in, or we all were in, by adding things. You fix the condition by removing the slow poisons that we've all been brainwashed into thinking are normal, because they're not normal. Does that make sense? And once you help a patient get that, they're like, so, oh, and then it all starts to fall into line, because what we're promoting here is not some weird fad diet. This is the human diet. That's really what we should all start calling it, is the human diet. It's the normal standard human diet. That's what I eat. What do you eat? Some kind of fad diet with grains in it? Gross. Okay? Now, so that's the main obstacle, is getting your head right. And then helping your patients get their head right. And that's what I spend the majority of my time in the clinic doing, is trying to gently, ninja style, slip in the back door and plant a seed without them knowing I did it. And then they're like, oh, wait, so, oh, fatty meat. Got it. Because that's the normal, that's what humans want. You know, human beings, we drove entire species to extinction, right? There are all these huge species that used to be on the earth that Dr. Michael Eads talks about that are extinct. And they didn't go extinct for any other reason except we hunted them to extinction, because they were humongous. They were like as big as Volkswagens. And they were just full of fatty meat, and we loved them. And so we ate them all. Okay? So that's number one, is get your head right. That's the biggest obstacle for you, okay? And then once you've got this, once you got the paradigm, Nobody worries you. Nobody scares you. When the next cardiologist comes out who weighs 80 pounds and looks like he's anemic and needs to eat a ribeye, you're going to be like, yeah, that's nice, honey. Whatever. Thank you for that. Okay. Bless your heart. Bless your heart. All right. Number 2 is not eating enough. It's very, very common when you come to this way because a lot of people call it the ketogenic diet. And I know what they mean by that, but a lot of us take that as I'm on a diet, right? And so we've been taught since we were babies, if you go on a diet, what do you do to your portion size? Right? On keto, that is not necessary, okay? Your body has this internal process called your basal metabolic rate. And you sitting there in that chair right now, Miss Beth, you are burning lots of calories to keep everything going. That's just part of life. That's what you do, right? When you're in bed asleep, you're burning calories. And so we think that when we go down to the gym, when we get on the treadmill, and we're running or walking or we're doing whatever, that we're really just burning the hell out of some calories. But when you actually look at the numbers, it's trivial what you're actually burning in the gym. Exercise is great for your brain and hundreds of other things, but if one of your goals for keto is to lose weight, don't waste money on the gym. There are huge, meaningful studies that show that you're not going to get any meaningful weight loss if all of your focus and all of your money is spent in the gym. And because there's only a few things we can spend in life. You can spend time, you can spend your effort, you can spend your money, right? And you want to spend all 3 of those on your food. If you want to join the gym and you enjoy it, that's fine. Go do that. But don't put the majority of your effort there and think that's really going to change the world, because you might burn 5% more calories if you're on the treadmill for an hour versus if you were literally laying in the bed asleep. Okay? So exercise is great for your body and your brain and your bones and all that other stuff is true, but as a weight loss strategy, it's going to disappoint you every time. Okay? And so you've got to eat enough. You've got to eat to satiety. Not only do you get to eat to satiety, but you need to eat to satiety, because if your body detects that there's not enough food energy, what's it going to do, Dr. Lemansky?
Slow down.
It's going to slow her down. And you know that resting basal metabolic rate when you're in bed, burning a certain amount of calories, if you're eating those little bird portions like your mom taught you to eat when you're trying to lose weight, your BMR is going to go down and your body temperature will go down 0.5 degree, and before you know it, you're burning 800 fewer calories a day, every day, just because you're not eating enough. It's a huge deal, but we're so hardwired to think, oh, I need to eat, I need to minimize my portions. Never helps you. So stop that. Eat until you're full and eat the right foods. Okay? Yes, ma'am. Yeah, and that's a thing, and that's something that you've got to come to terms with and grips with personally, and you've got to do whatever strategy works for you to rediscover that. And usually when you're eating the standard American diet and you're inflamed and you're miserable and you're overweight, you can't really experiment with your biochemistry. You can say, oh, I'm going to stop nuts for a month, and you're so inflamed from all the other crap, you can't tell any difference. But when you've been eating pretty strict keto for a while, you can actually do experiments, and you can actually, your body will start to talk to you, right? And you'll get that feedback. Oh, okay. And so it's not perfect. And if you've had a broken satiety mechanism for a few years, it's going to take you a while to get back in touch with that. But if you're eating super low carb, you got time. You can play. You can play and experiment until you find that signal, what that means for you. Because for some people, that's just full. Other people, it's more an up here feel. And so it's hard to know what yours is until you discover it. And the only way to discover it is to look for it. Yeah, absolutely. So the next obstacle is eating too often. Oh, I'm sorry. Question, yes?
That's okay. So you mentioned the gym. Do you say that to people, and what is their reaction?
Most people are relieved.
Really?
You mean I don't have to join the gym? No, you don't. If your goal is to lose weight, the gym is a waste of money and a waste of time.
And do you find, so what I'm finding is the 2 things people say to me are, I stopped eating bread.
Yep.
It's obvious, I can fix
And I join the gym.
And I'm working out
Yeah,
all the time.
exactly, right.
And then I tell them, spend that energy in the kitchen, and they look at me after that
Right.
like I'm crazy.
You're right.
So
The way I typically bend that is I say, do you enjoy the gym? See, and I make it emotional, and I make it back on them, and then they're like, no. Right? And so then I say, if you're gonna go to the gym, I want you to either go to the gym and play, stop working out, because it's not gonna help you to start with. So if you enjoy it, do what you enjoy. Swim, bike, play volleyball, whatever you love, go play. Go outside and play, literally. And do that for fun. And yeah, it's great for your brain. It's going to slash your risk of dementia, and it's going to keep your bone density stronger, blah, blah, blah. We all know that. But don't waste your time and money if you despise going to the gym, because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to give you guys a set of tools that you can use from now until we're on the low-carb cruise 45 years from now, okay? I want this to be effortless. I want it to be sustainable. I want it to just be second nature, right? And if I'm telling you to do things that you despise, that is unsustainable. You will not do that for long. How many people, why in America we've stopped making New Year's resolutions? We're just like, the hell with it. I'm not doing that anymore. It's stupid. Because you always resolve to do things that you don't want to do. But I'm telling you, that's a mistake. You're always going to fail if you try to do that. And so if I redirect you gently and lovingly back around to, hey, let's focus on your food, and you can go play in the gym if you want to, that's fine, but that's not where you need to put the bulk of your effort and your money. That needs to be on your food. But yeah, and some people will be very disappointed, but most people are like, yes! I'm going to call and cancel it today. Yeah.
I just find that they don't believe that. Like,
Yeah, my doctor said, y'all can kiss mine. Yeah. Yeah. So, the next obstacle is eating too often. And this is another thing that we were taught from very early for the last 40, 50, 60 years. You need to eat very often, because what that's going to do is keep your metabolic rate high, and that'll help you burn more calories. And that is complete and utter horse. Yeah. Okay? Complete and utter. And Dr. Jason Fung goes into great detail on his videos about what eating every 2 hours actually does. One of the main things we're trying to do with the ketogenic way of eating is hack your insulin level, right? Because everybody knows insulin is a growth hormone. It helps you get bigger. And so if that's your goal, then eat every 2 hours. And you will grow, I promise. But probably not in the way you'd like to grow. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to say, hey, you don't need to eat every 2 hours. You don't even need to eat 3 meals a day, actually. And when we go back in time to your granddaddy 50,000 years ago, did he eat 3 meals a day with snacks in between? Hell no. Now, he would if he could, but they couldn't. You had one big meal, and just like the lion on the savannah, and you ate till you were gorged, and it was full of fatty meat, and then you laid around unless something was chasing you or you had to chase something, right? Nobody went and jogged for a couple of miles back then. If you went back in time and said, hey, Grandpa, let's go jog 5 miles, you'd probably get run out of the tribe as being a lunatic, right? You'd be like, why? Right? Does that make sense? And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to imitate how we used to be without the infections and falling off the cliffs and the saber-toothed tigers. We can do without that. That's what modern society should mean, not that you eat products now instead of real food. That's not progress.
So when you're thinking about a child and trying to grow a child,
Yeah.
how does that apply to that?
Well, his grandfather 50,000 years ago had a child, at least one. Had to, right? Or he wouldn't be sitting there.
Yeah.
What did they feed that child? Did they feed him Similac and lots of bananas and Melba toast? Is that what the... No. We never ate any of that, right? That child ate probably pre-chewed fatty meat that mom would chew up and then kiss into the baby's mouth, right? And then they would eat whatever they could eat. And they would have breast milk until they were 3 to 5, probably. And then after they were weaned off the breast, what did they drink for the rest of their life without exception?
Water.
Nothing else. That was it. And it was just fine. They were just fine with drinking water their entire life, right? And so you got to remember, that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to be that guy without the infections and the saber-toothed tigers. Because that's where human health is actually at. It's what our DNA's been used to doing for the last 50,000 years. That's where real health is, okay? So eating too often is going to keep your insulin level chronically elevated. And when your insulin level is elevated, what does it do to your weight loss? Turns it off, if it's high enough, that's right. And so any of the 3 macronutrients you eat are going to raise your insulin at least a little. If you eat fat, it's going to bump your insulin a little bit, not much. You can probably still burn some fat if you've had some fat, right? If you eat some protein, it's going to bump your insulin a little more. It's not going to spike it like a lot of people say, but it will elevate it more than if you eat just fat. If you eat carbs, and this is whether it's the carbs in whole wheat, or the carbs in broccoli, or the carbs in grandma's cherry pie, insulin's going to spike. That's just what the human body does to cope with that. Because 50,000 years ago, how many opportunities did his granddad get to eat a high carb meal? When did that happen? Was that every day? A couple times a year, right? They would find a honey tree every now and then, and they wore it out. When they found it, I guarantee you, they laid around in a sugar coma for 3 days. But that was once every 2 or 3 years. And then you had to endure all the stings, and so maybe you're like, I don't know, it's not worth it. We had some money last year, we'll wait till next year again, right? And once a year, the fruit might get ripe if they live far enough south, right? They'd have some fruit, they'd have some berries. But that was a month or 2 out of the year. What about the other 10 months of the year? That's what we got to replicate. And so that's why I think feasting is fine. When you're on a cruise like this, if you want to have the cheesecake, have the damn cheesecake. It's fine, it's a feast. But on a daily basis, you're going to eat like your DNA wants you to eat. And that's where true health is. Yes, sir.
I may be the only one in here, but how about okay, I would like to gain some weight.
Yeah.
Okay. So just what would be the...
Do you want to gain fat or muscle?
Muscle.
Okay.
Prefer,
All right. Anybody in here want to gain fat? Because if you want to gain fat, you eat lots of carbs and you eat multiple small meals a day. That's how you gain weight. If you don't believe me, then you can go back in time 50 years, just 50, not 50,000. And you can look at the average rate of obesity in the United States, right? 50 years ago. And then you can say, okay, then we started eating lots of small, high carb, multiple meals a day. And now what's the obesity rate? It seems pretty clear to me what causes obesity, right? Now, if you want to build muscle, first of all, you're going to eat keto. You got to eat the right diet. You got to eat lots of fatty meat. You got to eat lots of fat, lots of protein. That's what your body needs to build muscle. And then you're going to either go to the gym and lift heavy, or you're going to lift heavy stuff at home. Because there's only 2 ways to gain weight when you're a grown human. You either gain fat or you gain muscle, or some combination, right? And so if you want to put on some muscle, you're going to lift heavy stuff while eating the proper human diet. If you want to just go to your ideal body weight and stay there, then you just eat the proper human diet. That's it. That's as simple as it gets. Yeah? All right, the next one is, already been talked about a little, is sweeteners. Sweeteners can be a huge obstacle to some people. Let me be very clear. Some people can drink Diet Coke and use stevia and Splenda and NutraSweet and aspartame, and it does not affect them at all, okay? What this comes down to is a physiological process known as the cephalic insulin response. And it started back with his granddaddy, okay? When his granddad tasted something sweet in his mouth, what did it mean without exception was about to happen? He was about to swallow some carbs. Because back then there was nothing sweet that didn't contain carbohydrates, right? And so the brain thought, you know what, we can jump ahead a little bit, because that blood sugar spike, that's a real booger, that does damage. And so what we're gonna do is when we taste sweetness in the mouth, we're gonna go ahead and bump the insulin to get ready for the sugar. And for some people, sweeteners don't really bump their insulin much. And they can do just fine drinking their Diet Coke and using their sweeteners. For other people, they're very, very sensitive to sweeteners. And it will bump your insulin enough to turn off your weight loss. And for thousands of people out there, that's their stall. They've been stalled, and they're like, I don't understand, I'm eating perfect keto, and, you know, I drink my Diet Coke, but I mean, you know, it's sugar-free, right? But it's the sweetener. It's the sweetener. It's the sweetener. And so if you're stalled and you know you're doing pretty good keto, but you're still using sweeteners, it's probably the sweeteners. Because that having a sweet taste in your mouth with every meal, every day, is not normal. That's a fad. Think about that. His granddaddy had sweet taste in his mouth once or twice a year. You think it's okay for you to have something sweet every meal of every day? That's weird. That's a fad. That's only been that way for the last 30, 40 years that we've thought that was okay. Right? Think about that. That's the fad. And that's the problem for many people. Not everybody. Some people can do it just fine. I have to limit my sweeteners, and they don't really bother me. It's just a difference in our DNA, where we're from. Right? All right, the next one. The next one. Yes, sir. Do you have a question?
No, sir.
Okay. Go ahead and stretch then. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was just curious, are there any sweeteners that are more approved? I know like aspartame is like one of the most agreed upon like worst sweetener for artificials.
Yep.
Are there any sweeteners that you would say are probably better for the health in a keto diet that are negative?
It depends. You're welcome. No, it depends because of what I just said. If you are one of those people whose cephalic insulin response is very sensitive, if it's aspartame or if it's stevia or monk fruit extract or erythritol, you're going to bump your insulin and you're going to turn off your weight loss. Even if there's, and so here's how we found out about this. They did a study a few years back and they gave people saccharin water, which is very sweet but it's kind of bitter. But they would swish it in their mouth. They'd check their insulin. They'd swish it in their mouth for a minute and spit it out. Didn't even swallow it. Didn't even swallow it. Just swished it in their mouth. That's how we know that there's a brain-tongue connection here. It's not even here. Their insulin went up. Okay, and it's different for everybody. Some people it goes way up and that's it. You just screwed your weight loss for the next 6 hours, right? For other people, they can do it all day long. It doesn't bump it any meaningful amount and they can still lose their weight. So if you're one of those people who has a very sensitive cephalic insulin response, you probably need to avoid all sweeteners. And I promise you, it does not sound like, it's not the maximum security prison that you think it might be, okay? I used to think that. I used to have sweet in my coffee, sweet with everything, and now sweet for me is, I don't even want to call it a rare treat. It's a rare diversion from my normal diet. Like it's almost not even pleasurable for me anymore. If I pick up Nisha's coffee by mistake that's got 3 pumps of sugar-free, what is it? Dolce, yeah. I'm like, oh my God, no, that's not my coffee. I just can't do it anymore, right? And that's not the me I used to be. Used to, I would want 6 pumps of my own. And now I sometimes get 1 pump, usually none, because I just don't want any sweet. I'm over it. I'm over the fad of thinking I need sweetener and everything. Yes, ma'am.
Can you check this with your own blood sugar monitor?
Not so much with your blood sugar. You'd have to do this with your doctor because currently where's Jimmy? There's not an insulin test at home
There
yet,
is
is there?
not.
There's 2
It's about
people.
5 years away.
Yeah, there's 2 or 3 companies working on that, but not yet. And so if you wanted to test this, you really could go to your doctors and have him check your fasting insulin, right? And then the next day go back fasting and have a big Diet Coke or whatever sweetener you want to test, wait an hour, let him recheck your insulin and see what the difference is. If you don't bump it much, then you're probably fine with some sweeteners. Yes, ma'am.
Is fasting insulin the same as fasting glucose?
No, completely different test. Yeah, good question. And so your fasting insulin, you can check at home with the glucometer, which I recommend all of you guys get one if you don't have one. $20-$30 at China Mart. You do not need a doctor's prescription unless you're in Canada. And you have to have a prescription or a doctor's order.
That won't tell what you're doing.
That's right. Yeah, you got it. This currently has to be checked at the doctor's office. Yep. Okay, next is loneliness. Loneliness, okay? There's a reason that we call you guys our Keto Family. There's a reason that you need to think of it this way. Because here's something you will never hear happen, okay? You will never hear the chairman of the American Diabetic Association come on CNN and Fox News and say, you know what, about that cholesterol thing, yeah, we're wrong about that. So, we're sorry. Oops. No, you're never gonna hear that retraction. You're never gonna hear that apology. All of the big dogs are backing slowly away from that. Okay, the American Heart Association used to say in their guidelines to doctors, maximum 300 milligrams of cholesterol intake a day. Right? It's no longer there. They didn't. There was no news story. It just ceased to be there in, I think, 2014. So you know how when you've been running your mouth and you're like, pa, 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 and let me tell you one more thing, right? But then you all of a sudden, your wife says, you're wrong about that. You're wrong. What do? You're like, oh, I'm sorry. You apologize? No, you just like, okay. I'm just, yeah. Go over here. That's human nature, and that's what we're dealing with here is human nature, right? And so we've got to be a keto family. We've got to support each other and help each other. Back in 1971, if you tried to do the ketogenic diet, you would be a lone voice in the wilderness, right? If you wanted to talk to somebody about it, you would have to sit down and write them a letter, right? And then address an envelope, put a stamp on it, and right, yeah. Those days are gone. We've got this amazing thing called social media where you can reach out to you. Y'all never met, never know each other. In 30 minutes, you can be keto friends. You can be keto buddies, right? You can be on this journey together just like that. How sexy is that? Are you guys making full use of that?
Yeah.
That's a power that no humans have ever had before on this planet, ever. Okay? And some of the older folks in here can tell you, like, that's so powerful it scares people. Like, oh my God. Like, I mean, these people could just revolt if they wanted to. Because they could all get together and show up at a certain place and do a certain thing and almost get thrown out of Disney Springs. That's what we did. So, yeah, social media is very powerful. And so if you don't have a next door neighbor who's doing keto, that's okay. Because you can have a virtual next door neighbor who's doing keto. And you guys can help each other and help each other grow. And you can mourn the losses and you can celebrate the victories together. And that makes you such a more powerful person because 50,000 years ago, did we live alone like mountain lions? Is that how we lived? We were a tribe, weren't we? And that's how you got to think of this. We're a tribe. We're in this together. We got to support each other, take care of each other, and reach out to each other. And if you don't do that, it's your problem and it's your loss. Yes, ma'am.
So, about the support, what if the person that's coming to you or is kind of voicing, oh, my coworkers at work are doing keto. How do you implement that none of them are actually doing keto without offending?
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
like how do you send them towards that group of support when it's
Yeah, and
inaccurate?
this is a very much, just like all things in human existence, is trial and error, right? Everything is trial and error. And so 50,000 years ago, trial and error meant you got too close to the cliff and you fell off and died. Then you didn't reproduce. And then that's how we kind of learned. And now we can learn from other people's mistakes. But yeah, the part of this, when you're in Keto 101, when you're beginning, you're like, what? There's so much crap. What? Macros. What? There's so much, right? And I get that. And so when in doubt, there's the two rules, Dr. Berry's rules. When in doubt, eat more fat. When in doubt, bacon and eggs. Literally just don't, yeah. More salt, more fat, eat bacon and eggs. And don't worry about it. It's going to be okay because that's going to give you another day to learn, another day to ask your new keto buddy a question, etc., right? And I'm guessing that this is a hint.
Keep going.
One more. I want to talk about one more. And then I've got 8 more, but I'll just talk about one. So, trusting products. Okay, let's talk about that. And I know I might step on toes by saying this, but I don't really give a damn. It's kind of what I do. So, do you need a single product to eat keto right?
No.
Who didn't just say no? Do you need a single product to do keto right? No. You don't need to buy a bar, a shake, a collagen supplement. You don't need this. You don't need that. You don't need any of that. Okay? Now, 50,000 years ago, the water that his granddaddy drank ran over thousands of rocks and pebbles and through the mud and through the sand and through the sludge, full of minerals, right? They drank river water, creek water, sometimes mud puddle water, full of minerals, but also full of stuff that can kill you. But they were more acclimated to that, so it didn't hurt them. But they got all the minerals from just drinking water. Okay? We get water that's reverse osmosis distilled, or, worst of all, chlorinated and fluorinated. You don't get any meaningful minerals. So you might have to supplement some minerals. But I don't even count those as supplements. Those are just part of your diet that we can't get anymore because we live in modern society. But to think, and I'll give you an example. I had a lady come to me in the office about a month ago, Jimmy. And she said, this keto's not working for me. I'm like, well, what are you doing? Tell me. She's like, no, I'm following it. Because my friend, she told me how to do it, and I started doing it. And I'm like, well, tell me, what'd you have for breakfast this morning? She said, I had Special K and skim milk. And then I took my capsules.
My capsules.
True story. And I'm like,
I believe it.
What? No, what? What are these capsules? She whipped them out of her bag. She's like, I want you to see them, make sure they're okay. Just some bullshit that somebody had made $49.95 off this poor woman. Said, you can eat whatever, just take these right. You got to take them right after the meal from the work. See how you throw a little magic in there. Oh, it's got to be, it's very strict. It was complete. Who knows what was in it? It doesn't matter. Obviously that's not keto, and you guys know that. But as you go through this way of eating, as keto continues to explode in popularity and knock down dragons like Big Pharma and Big Food, because it's going to happen. There's going to be bankruptcies. Okay, it's going to happen, and you guys are going to be the cause of it. Congratulations. Okay, that's good. That's really a good thing. But they're going to throw up all kinds of. They're like, oh, we got to make some money off this, right? We better come up with a keto bar. We better come up with a keto. So this supplement pack. I mean, keto can be dangerous if you don't eat 7 to 10 cups of vegetables a day. You can get fatty liver, right? No, that's not how fatty liver works, right? So you don't need those supplements to protect your liver from fatty meat. Your liver wants you to eat fatty meat, right? So don't think you need supplements. Don't spend your money on supplements. Spend your money on food. Okay? Yes?
What role does cannabis play in this?
Cannabis plays as big a role as you want it to play, baby. Cannabis is a weed. God made it, and it grows in the ditch. Okay? Is enough said?
Might increase your hunger, though.
It might. Yeah, it might. Yes, ma'am. No, great question. Taking a collagen supplement, well, for potentially, but probably not. Okay, where did that collagen come from? Maybe animal tissue if you're lucky. Probably came from a vegetable source. Well, what does that mean? Vegetable collagen? What? So where should they get their collagen from, Maria?
Gristle.
Meat, right? When you shell an egg, what's that little membrane? That you peel off and throw away?
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah.
That's pure type 1 collagen and glucosamine and chondroitin sulfate. That's pure, highly bioabsorbable collagen. Eat the membrane. The gristle in your steak, what is that? Pure collagen that your body immediately absorbs and uses, right? Why? What the skin that you've been peeling off that chicken for the last 45 years, what is that skin made of? Fat and collagen, right? And so if you're eating properly, you're getting more than enough collagen. You don't need it. Even if you're lifting heavy in the gym, you're getting enough collagen if you're eating your fatty meat and eating the gristle and eating the skin, eating the membrane. When you eat a rack of ribs, that membrane on the back, that they pull it off before they cook, pure collagen. Pure, 100% absorbable collagen. You just threw it away. And then you're going to spend money on a vegetable source collagen powder. You see the silliness of that? You see what I'm saying? Stop that. You don't need that. Great question. Is that it? One more? Yes, ma'am.
I was curious. So when we go out for breakfast and we want to eat bacon and eggs, okay, am I being obsessive when I worry about whether the bacon is cured or uncured? Because I know it's probably cured.
I heard there's a good YouTube video about that. Actually, I worked on that video for about 3 months because I kept looking for the science that all these experts were like, no, nitrites, no, they will cause cancer. It's a class 1 if it's processed meat, right? And so I kept looking for the research study and looking for it, and there's none. It's basically an expert opinion based on a few observational studies based on the famous food frequency questionnaire, which I'm sure some of you guys have heard of. That's completely worthless when you do research that way. There's no research at all. Yeah, eat your bacon. It's fine. All right, good deal. Thanks, guys.
Dr. Kate Mary.